find that your hometown is no longer in your home country, right? The country you're born in, your hometown has been separated. Your school books, or maybe the school books of your children, are foreign, your language is frowned upon, your flag is gone. For millions of Hungarians in 1920, this wasn't just the imagination, this was the reality, right? The product of the Treaty of Trianon. Why, though, was the relatively minor power of Hungary? Hungary wasn't a great power within Europe, singled out for such drastic dismemberment. What caused Hungary to be partitioned, and looking back a century later, to what extent was Trianon really justified? Before World War I, less than half of the people within Hungary's borders were ethnic Hungarians, right? Ethnic Hungarians were sort of a minority within their own country. Over 50% of their subjects in Hungary, they didn't really want to be Hungarian. Maybe they knew some of the language, but they didn't really want to. And the government knew this. They also knew that failure in the war and a breakdown of central authority would eventually mean a sort of wave of unstoppable nationalist outbreaks among those minorities, which is exactly what ended up happening after the Treaty of Trianon. So at the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, where Trianon was signed, this was guided in theory by the principle of national self-determination. This idea, partly developed by Woodrow Wilson, the American president, that different ethnicities should have their own states in which they could govern themselves independently. So some shrinking of Hungary was always inevitable. The three biggest territorial concessions, so land that went to Slovakia, what we call Felvidék, land that went to Romania, Erdély, Transylvania, and land that went to Yugoslavia, down in the south. These territories mostly were Slovak, mostly were Romanian, mostly were South Slavic, but significant portions of their populations were also ethnically Hungarian. And obviously, if Hungarians ruling over other nations, other minorities, was unjust, we also have to think about the justice of other nations ruling over ethnic Hungarians in these territories. A perfect alignment of ethnic and national borders was never going to be possible, not here, not anywhere else in Eastern Europe. People don't live in nice, clean boxes. That's not the way the region was settled. In many cases, Hungarians lived side by side with Slovaks or Romanians or Serbs. So exactly what state some regions should have ended up in was always going to be a matter of debate. There's also the simple, undeniable fact that Austria-Hungary lost World War I. And generally speaking, when you lose a war, you have to give something up, maybe a lot in some cases. But that doesn't really explain why so many Hungarians were left outside of Hungary after World War I. First, though, let's be clear. On the whole, Trianon and the Treaty of St. Germain that was applied to Austria, they both did their job fairly well in some ways. They put many millions of people who'd previously been under the dual monarchy, under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, into their own independent countries. To those nationalities, Trianon wasn't a harsh punishment at all. It was something that they celebrated when they finally unified. They got their own independence. Still, on top of that, Hungary was left basically a homogenous country. So one of the most homogenous countries in Eastern Europe at the time. There was a small German minority, there were Jewish people, some Slovaks and such, but it was over 90% Hungary after World War I. So the idea that Trianon was fundamentally flawed or completely unjust, that's maybe not fair either, as we'll sometimes hear some more nationalist people say. Still, the millions of excluded Hungarians left outside of Hungary after the war was a real flaw in the plan. And most of the Hungarians in these territories lived directly adjacent to Hungary. So it's a strange phenomenon when you cross the border and everyone's still speaking the same language. So the situation leading up on the ground in Eastern Europe up to the Treaty of Trianon was also really messy. As for why those countries were even interested in land with majority Hungarian populations, it's simple economics. The areas were generally more urbanized, industrialized, and productive than the surrounding countrysides. So this was important economic territory, regardless of the people there.
We discussed that you have to present your campaigns and you have to tell the idea behind the campaign. You have to create a video, the Facebook post, or anything that will be a product of the campaign. And also you will have to answer the question, what humorous topic you choose and why it's important.
Okay, see ya!
It's gotta be good.
Hello everyone, please join us to learn about the issue, the impact, and how we can make a difference through education and policy to help our minorities feel socially integrated and accepted in Ukraine. So, as you guys know, there were autochthonous Hungarians that are now in part of Ukraine. So they aren't really able to leave because they just became the minority there after the war and the Treaty of Trianon. So basically the issue is that after that phase happened in Ukraine, they really wanted Hungarians to just start only speaking and communicating in Ukrainian, which isn't really fair in a way because they were kind of being persecuted from speaking their own language, which is an issue of identity, and we're going to get into more of those facts. 13% of the Transcarpathian region's native tongue is Hungarian. That doesn't mean that that's not the whole entire minority population. It's actually around 250,000 Hungarians that live there, so they are the minority. And the issue is that they weren't allowed to have any Hungarian schools there, and they were also not allowed to socially, it wasn't socially accepted to speak Hungarian there. So they were kind of being discriminated against, and that's why we want to inform you guys about this. So yeah, unpromised progress, as I said. While Hungarians in Ukraine can access their own schools since 2022, it's not going to be guaranteed in the future because, well, we've made progress. It's not promised. It could be taken away. They want it to be changed. And another bigger issue is that in order for students to graduate there, they must be taking their tests in Ukrainian, which means they have to fully learn a whole new language, which can be really hard. As we all know, most of us don't speak Hungarian, and we're coming here and listening to it, and it's really difficult, even to say the simple things. So just, I don't know, being able to fully learn a new language in this place is really difficult, and it's kind of not fair in a way. So anyways, we're gonna just move on to our next point about adaptability. And we're going to talk about how the social integration is kind of sparse there, and there's a lot of tension and discrimination between the two cultures and nationalities. So we just want to support the Human Rights Foundation and be able to help these two places merge and help Hungarians feel heard and not lose their identity in this region, even though it's really tough with the different government policies, including the war and other political factors that are very big. So, yeah, do you guys want to say the last part?
We can make a difference as HHRF and get involved and speak out and protect our people.
And we have one slight demonstration to show. This one is going to be a live demonstration just to show how it is.
Okay. To give a little context, one of the policies that Ukraine implemented was for all students at the conclusion of their secondary education have to take the graduating test in Ukrainian. So that means Hungarians, even though Hungarian students were allowed to learn and speak Hungarian through their primary and secondary educations, they couldn't take their graduating test in Hungarian. So that's context.
Jaj, de milyen sokat tanultam ennek.
No, you must change this in Ukrainian.
Fact or fiction? Are your children being educated in the language that you rose them up? Go to hhrf.org or call your local consulate and get involved. Make sure that your children are speaking the language you rose them in.
So our topic was property restitution in Transylvania. So during communism, a lot of property was taken away from ethnic Hungarians, and HHRF does a lot of work in terms of giving back that property, but only a significant, the minority of that property has been given back. And a lot of the property that hasn't been given back is to ethnic Hungarians. So we decided to do, do you want to?
Yeah, so we kind of were envisioning doing a kind of grassroots DIY social media campaign of kind of short, punchy videos to grab people's attention, and then kind of have that be a framework to disseminate information about the subject. or move people in.
Yeah, especially though, even if like something is given back, then like a lot of times it gets renationalized. So keep that in context that it's not necessarily, oh, we have it, like we're giving it back. Sometimes it goes back to the state. So here you go.
Okay.
Do you see that castle right down there? That castle has been in my family for 6 generations. It was taken by the Romanian government. They gave it back to us, so they say.
Gotta keep going.
Okay.
Part two.
Tell those fat cats in Bucharest to give our castles back.
One of you guys wants to do the hashtags?
I don't want to read
Alright, so we have a hashtag keep the count out, hashtag my castle, my choice, hashtag vampires in Bucharest, hashtag fat cats in Bucharest, hashtag la rivedere, I guess that's how the Romanians say it, la rivedere Romanians. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, hashtag RTH, which stands for,
I have no idea.
oh, you made it up, man. It stands for Reconnect Transylvania Hungary, I think is what we said. And then hashtag no renationalization.
Just to put it all into context, we were tasked with writing an 8-line song, it can rhyme or not, that reflects your team's spirit and the struggle for Hungarian human rights, minority rights. So, in contrast to the confrontational nature of our dear beloved greasy friend, here's a song that we...
But there were keywords, yes?
Yes, there were keywords, minority, historical injustice, and restitution. So, this is unnamed ode to Transylvania. To be the minority, stuck in this majority, is like having wings to soar but never being free. To see from these mountaintops, history so unjust makes us resolute to restitute our right to fly.